want to briefly rush on and say in regards to Dr. King, in regards to the word sacrifice. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you here today. And the reason so, because we're in this thing together. Make no mistake about it. That is the only way that we can do this movement is collective. And I want to thank each and every one of you here today. One of the things that Dr. King and a lot of people not understanding is that the women, and I'm going to emphasize again, and it's been emphasized, not only Paul and Mary, but and not only in Ella Baker, but in our state alone, Settlement Clock and Majestic Symptoms. Every time Dr. King came to South Carolina, he got with Settlement Clock out of Charleston, and he got with Majestic Symptoms out of Columbia, South Carolina. Okay? Ella Baker was instrumental in helping him organize HCAEJ. But to rewind that, we have to acknowledge Dr. King's father. His father, Senior. Senior, they call him Daddy King. Daddy King lost 2 sons and his wife. When Dr. King got killed in 68, April 4th, 1968, a year later, his AD, his son, got killed at his home and was thrown into his pool. And then years later, in 1976, his wife got killed right in the church. Sacrifice. Each and every one of you under the sound of my voice is in this movement because of the fact that you're dedicated and committed to justice. And we have to understand that, again, as a libation, as I said, someone sacrificed for us to be what we are today. When Dr. King was in the Birmingham prison, he wrote a letter to all the clergy. And he was very disappointed how the clergy looked at it. When he got out, he went to church, he organized the church. Inside the church, he stated, we need a movement that's going to stand. Can I get a show of hands of the dust who's ready to go out next week in protest? Thank you. That is the question that Dr. King asked all in their church. He asked that. Who's willing to sacrifice? In this meeting, in the church, no adult raised their hand at that particular time. No adult raised their hand. Not one. But in the back, there was children that stood up. Children that stood up. One of the things that we must begin to do is recognize that the movement was the children in the front line and the elders in the rear, molding and shaping them and guiding them. It's the children. We must understand that. And we have neglected them. When I took a tour to Africa several years ago, many years ago, it was about 10 of us, went over on a business trip. On this trip, I was the only one that went out to the village and stayed amongst the people. The only one. Because I didn't go to Africa. I didn't go to Africa, go back home to stay in some motel. And let me be real clear. Everyone in the sound of my voice is Africans. Okay? Humanity begins where? Africa. Let that be known. And we need to understand that. Okay, and that's the beauty of the Creator. That's the beauty of this universal spirit. That's the beauty of allowing the creation to be of multi-colors. But all life begins in Africa. All life begins in Africa. So there in Africa, when I was there for 10 days, I was out in this village, and every morning, my chaperone comes and takes me up to my comrades. And in the motel, as I walk out the motel, it took us about 5 minutes. It took us about 5 minutes to go up to the taxi. And of course, as I'm walking, and of course, I'm from the South. South Carolina, here's my roots. I graduated from Conway High School, choirs and Kelly. People don't even know that. I left here at the age of 18 and went into the Army. And my life has been into the Army. And I traveled. And I came back to South Carolina in 2006. And I came back because of the fact when I came back to visit, I realized there was not a whole lot of true leaders. So as much is given, much is required. So I stayed so I can be able to give back. Because one thing that I learned on this journey of life, there's a beginning and there's an ending. We live and we die. The question is, what statement will we leave behind? And being mindful of those who have paid the price. So as I'm walking to the taxi, me and my chaperone, good morning was my greetings to my brothers and sisters. Good morning. But that was not the greeting. That was not the greeting in this village. The greeting in this village was, how are the children? How are the children? That was the greeting. How are the children? So I'm asking my chaperone, what's going on, brother? I'm saying, good morning, Brother Mustafa. That is not the greeting here, brother. Here is how are the children. So he goes on and tells me how this village operates. He said, Brother Mustafa, in this village, children and elders is very critically important. Very critically important. He said, if the children is not well, you see that bell over there, Mustafa, big old bell. One of the kids, by the elder permission, would go and knock on that bell and hit that bell. And the elders would form a circle, and the community would form a circle around the elder to talk about the resolution for the children. I'm like, my God. I say to everywhere I go after leaving Africa during that time, that is my words of theme and wisdom today. It's how the children, because when I do my assessment everywhere I go, the children is not good. And I say to everyone that we need to do the same thing. Knock on that bell and ring the bell and call to action. Because as I reminisce and understand, when we look at it, it has always been the children that paid the price. They have paid the price. Soweto in 1976. The children in Soweto, Africa, in South Africa, rose up against the government. The children said, we want African history in our school. And the government, the apartheid government, said, no, you will not get it. So the children hit the streets, and they protest, and hundreds of children got killed. There's the same kind of protest in Alabama and Mississippi, and during Dr. King, where the children fighting for injustice. So I say to us, we have to ring this bell. Every time we hold forums, we must have the children present. We must have the children present, and we must create leadership training. We cannot continue to hold forums and don't have children. We have to create forums and have leadership. Over there, we're training the young, as Dr. King and others have done in the past. That has to be what we must do today. We are in serious trouble when we look at the school system. Let's take a look at Horry County school system, and it's the same throughout. Why is it that South Carolina put 5 times more in incarceration instead of education? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. But what are we going to do? That's the question today. What are we going to do? What we must do is begin to continue to build alliance with one another. And we must organize ourselves. And we must do, as I just said, train up and prepare the next generation of leaders who is community leadership based. That is the kind of leadership today that we have to do. Community leadership based, not center based, meaning one individual leader. Every one of us in here must know the same thing and understand the same thing. That's how it has to be. We can no longer just key in on one leader. We have to be community-based leaders. And in that, we teach them community service. The leadership today People complain about it. Complain about it. But we cannot complain about it when we're not doing anything, not organizing. Horry County has a lot of work to do, just like many counties in South Carolina. Our children have been suspended. African boys and African children have been suspended 5 times more than any other children. And that's a national as well as a state issue. Why is that? But not only why is that, but what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We have to begin to hold politicians accountable until we put the right people in office. Democratic and Republican. The Democratic Party has not done pretty much very little of anything when it comes down to poor people. And of course, the Republican Party, I don't know. They haven't done much neither. But the reality is, the question is, where are we holding them accountable? That is the question. Because what we have to do is form a stronger alliance and begin to go to the city council, go to the county council, go to the state rep, and hold them accountable until we identify the right individuals to run for office. Without that, then it will be generation. As I stated, we live and we die. There's a beginning and there's an ending. The question is, what statement will we leave behind? That is the question. We have an issue with jobs. But the question that I say, how can South Carolinians have jobs when most of our children, when they get in the 9th grade, they're on 3rd and 4th grade reading level? That makes no sense at all. On 3rd and 4th grade reading level, in the 9th grade, in the 10th grade, in the 12th grade, we have to begin to address that. And then, if I'm not mistaken, our tax dollars go to education, supposed to go to state diplomas. Is that not correct? Yes, high school diplomas is what we're supposed to be paying our tax dollars for. This thing called occupation certificate that our children receive, we need to stand up and tell our policymakers, you need to eradicate that. Because every child, regardless of what background they come from, not only deserve, but our tax dollars states that they would graduate with a state diploma. So that's something that we need to address, family. We must address that. The key is education. You have so many further up Columbia, Orangeburg, and other, you have foreigner teachers. 70-80% foreigner teachers here in South Carolina because they state that we cannot find qualified teachers. Okay? That's what's going on. So I'm appealing to my family that it's time for us to strategically begin to organize in 2019. 1619, they brought our foreparents here in Jamestown, Virginia. 1619, 400 years ago. This is 2019. We're in 2019, 400 years later. Let's begin to ask ourselves a question. Have we made any progress? We have to go back and take a look. In the 40s, 50s, and 60s, we move as a collective. We move as a unit. Over the past 20, 30 years, that collective fell off. It fell off. We have to come back to the table again and fight this beast. Fight this monster. Because again, it is because of our children and our grandchildren and our unborn children. It's very critically important. South Carolina, why is it that they have 23 state prisons in South Carolina and 4 federal prisons in one state? Why? What are we going to do about it? That's the question. What are we going to do about it? I tell you what we're going to do about it. We're going to organize ourselves. And we're going to sit down and we're going to begin to confront our policymakers. And as I said earlier, we're going to begin simultaneously to have leadership workshops to identify public service leaders and move these folks out the way. That 5-time money in incarceration will be going to education. It makes no sense at all. Why is it that in South Carolina, Hospitals in rural areas is being closed. No health care. Why? Because again, there's no accountability. There's no accountability. We have to begin to hold, again, our politicians accountable. When we're talking about suspension and expulsion in the school system, when a child gets a referral, and this is something that we have taken to the solicitor office. When a child gets a referral and has to go to alternative school, it automatically goes to the juvenile court system. Automatically goes to the juvenile court system. Why? Because of misconduct, they go to the court system. This is called the school to the prison pipeline, is what it's called. We must address this. We must address the school system in the sense that every child should graduate knowing how to write a business plan. Yes, a business plan. Knowing what entrepreneurship is about. We must bring back the Booker T. Washington theory, self-reliance. Those who want to become electricians, those who want to become carpenter and plumbers. We adults, the adults in the room, we must do that because the children need our guidance. We have a responsibility. This is a legacy that we must leave. We must continue to pick up what Dr. King, his unfinished, and those who was with him, the unfinished business. I get tired every year, folks march, acknowledging Dr. King, but none have been on the front line. None have done anything. It's all been lip service. All been lip service. We today have work to do. But the question is, who's willing to sacrifice? Who's willing to sacrifice? And what is the direction we need to go? That's the question. What's the direction we need to go? This year is 2019. 2020 is next year. We got a whole year out to do what we need to do. A whole year out to do it. We're in day one, I would say January. Day one. Day one. I suggest that we hold meetings every other month. And we address these concerns and issues. These issues of poverty, the issues of public housing. I have been fighting the local public housing for years. For the last few weeks, I've been getting all kinds of calls that the local public housing, Conway Public Housing, has been continually, illegally evicting people out of public housing. And public housing was designed to house people. Back in 2010, 2009, 2009, I had went in front of the city council talking about the illegal eviction of innocent people from Conway Housing Authority. And they're still doing it. Still doing it. And I'm saying the blinds may be wear and tear over the years. What they do is charge the people for the blinds instead of replacing the blinds. And then when it come down to the folks paying their rent, what ended up happening, the folks get a letter saying that your rent is short. Because what happened, they took it out for the blinds when they get budget for the blinds. Another example, the molding around the refrigerator. Wear and tear. They charge the people hundreds of dollars for that. When the people pay their rent, next thing you know, they're down in the court being evicted. I fought that battle for many years. As I tell them, I'm a believer that public housing is for public housing. You get evicted, it has to be something seriously wrong, meaning drugs or fighting or whatever the case may be. But how they have been doing things against poor people has been wrong. And when we talk about Jesus, and especially I tell my holy roly folks, when we talk about Jesus, Jesus was a freedom fighter. He went up against the government because the government was doing the poor people wrong. He wasn't agitating and rabble-rousing. So I tell my holy rollies, I tell my holy roadies in the churches, every day they should be out here until things is right. Every day they should be out until things is right. So, again, what is the hour of the night? What is the hour of the night? We are the watchmen. We are the watchmen. We have work to do. Whether it's in the criminal justice system, whether it's in economic, we have so many elders that need assistance. So many elders that need assistance that we're not addressing. We've got so many issues. But I say to you, how are the children? How are the children? There's no reason at all that the children is in high school on 2nd and 3rd grade reading level. We have to bring the superintendent to the carpet. And we have to put the right school board members on because education is critically important. That is the passport to the future. They cannot go anywhere with some piece of paper called occupation certificate. And I had a serious argument with a lady over at the district office talking about, well, they can go over to Georgetown Tech. But my question to her, how can that be when they can't even read and write? How can it be? So I'm willing to continue to fight because I don't have a choice. Not only do I don't have a choice, but I'm committed to the struggle. But I'm committed to those shoulders that I'm standing on. But most of all, I'm committed to the children. The children I'm committed to, and the unborn. And if there's anything that should move our heart, if there's anything that should move us, it should be the children, regardless of what color they may be. Because we're all one. We're all one. So, my brother telling me it's almost over. So I'm going to wind it down. I'm going to wind it down by saying this right here, a little poem by a mother who didn't always have her grammar right, but she uttered words of great symbolic profundity. Well, son, I tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It had tacks in it and splinters, and boarded up places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time, Isa been climbing on and reaching, landing, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you stop now. Don't you sit down on the steps because you find it kind of hard. For Isa still going, boy. Isa still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Well, life for none of us has been a crystal stair. But we must keep moving. We must keep going. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. Keep moving. I say to my young back there, stay focused. Stay focused, young men and young ladies. Do not let this society take you off course. Whatever you want to be, you can be. Whatever you want to be. As I tell my sons and other young people, readers are leaders. Readers are leaders. Always center yourself around positive individuals. Always. South Carolina has a law, one for one, one for all. Meaning that if you're in the car and one of you get in trouble, all of you's in trouble. So I tell your young folks back in the back, you're all we got. You're all we got. You're all we got. Thank you very much.